Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's video where stream. Wow, I'm already getting it wrong. And oh my gosh, that light is bright. It is making my face like as white as like a pearl. What the heck is going on here? Alright. So I have my laptop over here to read the chat. You better not make me mad. Hey Antonio, welcome your face to the stream. So today we're going to be discussing a video that has recently struck the Bleach community called Why Bleach is a Failure. Welcome your face to the stream there too, man. That sure is already a W. Let's go. We're already getting the W's. But yeah, so recently a video entered the community called Why Bleach is a Failure. We had James Hansen on Twitter going at war with this one guy that made the video. And there's been a lot of takes back and forth. This one guy went at war with some of James's viewers. Doofy got involved. I just know several of the people that got involved. So we're going to be discussing a lot of it. But first, we're going to change this fire soundtrack to something a little less loud. Something a little quieter. Let's do Bleach OST. Oh, I know. Perfect. We'll keep it with the Bleach theme. We'll just make it a little quieter. It's still a bit loud. Well, his video is going to be playing, so I don't see why we need background music, actually. Yeah, alright, there we go. Yeah, I'm a very professional streamer, as you can see. And as you can see, we have his video pulled up. And I've watched this video twice already, but I want to discuss it with you guys more so than myself. The link to the video is going to be in the description. At war is kind of like an absurd term. He had some critiques for Bleach. Some people had some takes back. And some people believe some of his critiques were misinterpreted. Some people believe his critiques were invalid completely, and some people believe that he was just talking out and that he had never seen the series in his life, that he had just read the wiki. That's what some people have said, because some people thought his takes were so bad. Now I will say, after watching the video twice, some of his takes are awful. Some of his takes are pretty good, and some of his takes are just literally opinionated. Like literally, some of his takes are just like he would have preferred this, which is fair. But we'll get very deep into each and every take. Pausing the video as we go along. But yeah, let's kind of get this road started. Let me change the transition on OBS. Let me pause the music. And yeah, display capture. So if I do this. There we go. We have his video. We also have the activate Windows thing. Because I don't own Windows. Because why would I spend money on Windows when it's a waste of money? Alright, there we go. Alright, so we have this video pulled up. If you guys are here in the chat right now, say hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll welcome you in the chat. And Rukia Simp, you're a beautiful man. And I'll say that with my beautiful Zanpakuto. Alrighty, let's hit play on this video. Let's just dive deep. He already looks... Alright, I'm gonna try to be as respectful as possible in this discourse. Although I will say the title is an immediate negative connotation. I will say that YouTubers tend to exaggerate in their titles what they think of a series. I think at no point in the video he genuinely believes that Bleach is a failure. I'm gonna make that straight up on it. After watching the video twice, and nowhere in his video does he say Bleach is truly a failure, and he doesn't believe that. The title's really clickbait. Now in the video he does heavily critique Bleach. He does, but he also says that he likes it, and he has also commented since he posted this video that about 20 to 30% of his views are wrong. Like, he disagrees with about 20 to 30% of his takes in this video. But yeah, so we're going to dive deep into it. Sunny D, I'm doing pretty good. How's your day going? Yeah, the title was purposefully chosen to piss people off, which is the point of his video. It's like if I titled this video, The Biggest Bleach Hater Debunked. Like, it is obviously clickbait to drive people in, which is fair. YouTubers have to do what YouTubers have to do. I made the video, does Jujutsu Kaisen suck? And nowhere in the video do I say Jujutsu Kaisen genuinely sucks. I say that it was overhyped for me, but actually my opinion on that has changed. I love JJK now. It's incredible. But yeah, let's get started with this video.
So around this time last year, I uploaded this video where I talked about some of the most popular anime that I've never personally watched. And I think one of the biggest names on that list was definitely Bleach. And now we are 1 year later, and you're probably wondering, well, why'd you watch it this time around? Well, I have an answer for you. So if you've been on my channel for the last couple months, you are probably aware that I've uploaded a fair bit of Jujutsu Kaisen videos. By the way, full Jujutsu Kaisen playlist in the description. I'll also link it
Speaking of JJK,
Jujutsu Kaisen stan that I am.
seen this guy, he makes bad takes about a lot of stuff, but talk to him on streams, he's a cool guy. Yeah, well, we'll get into the government. But welcome your face to stream.
The mangaka of Jujutsu Kaisen, where he was interviewed at the same time with Tite Kubo, the creator of Bleach. And Gege Akutami heavily revealed that he was inspired by Bleach.
Yeah, okay.
Manga. Couple that with a lot of
that's fair. That's fair.
Like Hunter video where people
that's what got me. That's what got me to really like JJK after like looking at it from like the Bleach fan I am.
A lot of Bleach in its DNA. So the way I'm gonna bring up this video,
yeah.
have a little section.
Let me know if he's too loud or if I'm too loud or what you guys think is the the volume.
Things I liked, things I didn't like, but I'm gonna try as best as I can to refrain from giving you the things I didn't like in every single section, because otherwise we'd be here forever. Instead, I'm gonna save all my grievances for
he didn't need to include that in the video. I think that was a little bit like
Bleach, because
but
I
that's
don't even want to say
nitpicking.
hated, I just didn't like some of it. We'll get to that later in that part of the video. I'm leaving timestamps.
Yeah, he set himself up with that title. That's fair.
To that part, feel free, but I recommend watching the entire thing, liking, subscribing when notifications are. We're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and in exchange, I'll start doing
5K subs.
All my favorite anime and manga, starting with
You're
Hunter
a little
Hunter.
too
Now,
loud.
Ado,
You got it.
Alrighty,
Let me turn myself down.
The first arc, the Substitute Shinigami arc. You know, when I started Bleach, I was kind of unclear.
Oh, let's pause. Alright, so basically, what's happened so far in the video, there's not really a take on it. He just explained his journey on how he started Bleach. I do have to say, having like a few, yeah, fair, Antonio. That's a fair point. I will say, having like the whole point where like he wants to, I think he should have probably just said his problems in each arc as he went through, and it probably would have made the outline of the video just better overall. I feel like that might have helped the video a little bit, but no big complaints here so far, other than I disagree that there's a ton of flaws with Bleach, but hey, well, let's just keep watching the video, see what he has to say about each thing. Again, I've already seen this video, but we're gonna watch it anyway.
The impression I was going for was going to be, because I couldn't fathom how the Substitute Shinigami arc, when I was watching it, somehow kept escalating and escalating and escalating all the way to the 1,000-year Blood War arc. I guess my general take for this arc is that it's pretty generic in a fine way. Like, it gets you into the lore, it gets you into the world building, and it establishes things like what Soul Reapers are, what Quincy's are, what Hollows are, etc. But hear me out.
Okay, yeah. I mean, generic isn't really like an issue. Got my bingo ready, card ready. Betcha he'll say Arrancar is just Soul Society repeated. Knight, we'll have to wait and see for that one. So, being generic isn't necessarily a bad thing. I don't think Substitute Shinigami was really generic for its time, but like as like time has gone on and as more shonens have come out, I think yeah, you could say it is. I mean, it's very Monster of the Week type pacing, and I mean, he hasn't really said anything that I like mega disagree with at all. Like, it's just
hear me. I know I said
stuff.
No tangents, but like listen, I think this
Man's
one's
already
a good
going on a tangent.
It'll loop back around. Okay, it'll loop back around. Okay. So in the very first arc, the Substitute Shinigami arc, they introduced the concept of exorcising hollows that were evil in their human lives, and then those souls go to hell. But you know, they never bring up hell again until this year in July. But my criticism would have been totally fair for the last 4 years since Bleach ended. So for the Substitute Shinigami arc, yeah, all these cool concepts are introduced.
I mean, that's been a flaw that, I mean, many people have brought up in the Bleach community. Like, Kubo will give an idea and then he doesn't bring it back up. He still brings back quite a few of his ideas back up. And I think Hell was really heavily done inside the movie, which isn't canon, but Kubo was supposed to have most of his storyboard put into that movie. Again, he kind of didn't get the story that he wanted to get done, so he like asked for his name to be removed, you know? But yeah, I mean, that's kind of fair at that point with like the Hell, but it's not fair anymore because 4 years later, now we're getting the Hell arc, so now we're kind of like getting Hell, and then yeah, the Hell Butterflies were nearby. So Hell was around, But I guess it would be fair if 4 years ago and you didn't understand, like before the chapter came out and before the big reveal with the Hell Butterflies, the criticism would have been fair. Like, that's a fair take. But now the criticism isn't fair because now we realize, hey, look, Hell was around us this whole time, you know? It's like if a new arc is now diving into something big of the series, a big piece of lore. But overall, so far, I don't really have that big complaints. I mean, he literally said what he was saying. I mean, 4 years ago, for 4 years, my criticism would have been fine. It's just now things have changed.
And stuff, but there's not
because
much
the new
more
arc is,
to it. I'm happy
because the new arc is back.
that the arc was so short because it kind of offset some of the dullness of it. It's standard, is what I'm going to say. So
I'm also curious, did he watch the anime version of this arc or did he read the manga? Because that completely diversifies the two takes, I think.
I'm going to give this arc a 7 out of 10. Fine.
Not a horrible ranking. I mean, I give the anime version of the arc like a 6.5 or a 7 out of 10. I'd give the manga version a little bit more.
Introductory arc, nothing really to write home about. Anyway, let's move on to Soul Society, i.e. probably the most famous Bleach arc and one of the most popular anime arcs ever.
So not the most famous Bleach arc. He's actually technically wrong here. This is a nitpick of the video. But the most famous Bleach arc was Arrancar arc. That's when the sales were at the highest point. But he's probably talking about in like recognition. Like he's probably like talking about in how the community views the arcs. Because yes, the majority of the community does praise the Soul Society arc to its highest amount.
So what did I think of Soul Society? I thought it was good. I actually really enjoyed it on my first watch, and I think on the second watch I still liked it, but I liked it a little bit less. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say because for me, I just think philosophically, Bleach, Kubo, and I are just very different. We operate on different wavelengths, and what I see happening is in Soul Society, for example, elements that were brought up in the Substitute Soul Reaper arc, like helping deceased souls pass on, were more or less abandoned in favor of the political thriller of.
So it was a transition of themes. Kubo went from transitioning to the theme of grief to the theme of resolve here. And I mean, you cannot like the theme of resolve and like the theme of grief. It's just a personal preference at the end of the day. And it still overlaps with Ichigo's identity, as that is the core overarching theme of Bleach, is his identity.
What was going on in Soul Society,
Nightfall,
as well as the whole mission to save Rukia. And this kind of put everything on the back burner because then it transitioned from Soul Reapers being these people that guide on hollows in the afterlife, but at the same time, it just deviated all that and went into a straight-up battle shonen. All they did was just throw hands every 5 seconds. And normally, I wouldn't even get annoyed at that because, like, I like that, right? But at the same time, it's like, yo, don't you guys have jobs to do? Like, you...
Yeah, before we get into that job take that he has... Sorry. Before we get into that, they couldn't just focus on being hollows. They had to transition. Now, he can have the personal preference in saying that he likes the theme of grief better. He thought it was more thematically rich. I disagree. I like the resolve transition, the transition to the whole society concept, better than the first arc. But the theme of grief was still very well portrayed in early Bleach. As for that was just mostly a personal preference. Then what did he say? Oh yeah, the whole battle focused. It is more battle focused, but each of those battles have very deep themes. Like there's not really like a battle that doesn't have a purpose behind it. For example, like Ikaku versus Ichigo serves as a purpose of executing and doing world building, establishing the shinigami as a whole, establishing a deeper focus on Shikai, even though we saw that with Renji like in the first arc, and like it still established other things. It like previewed Kenpachi, and it also had his character moment where like we got to understand Ikaku a little bit more. Every single battle inside the Soul Society arc still has like compact themes attached to it. It's not just like a meathead type stuff. Now you can still view it and watch the fights like they're meathead, but they still have themes behind each fight.
Humans and hollows didn't stop dying.
Or at the very least a purpose.
They didn't stop existing. I'm sorry, I just have to bring this up. You did not need so many people fighting Ichigo over this, especially the captains. You know, no, I'm getting ahead of myself again. So, like, I have some basic questions.
Wait, I'm a little confused by that take. The captains just dwell in the Gotai 13. Why would the captains be in... I mean, I guess that's just a personal, like, pet peeve. Like, oh, I think the captains should be over here. But, like... I don't really get that take personally. I do understand, like here's the thing, like there's so many shinigami, and like there's gonna be shinigami all over the place in like towns. Like they're still doing their job. It's just right now, for the first time in hundreds of years, the Soul Society is under attack. They're gonna focus on these attackers. They're gonna try to deal with them because this is the first time there's intruders in the Serite. They're putting to death someone. There's a lot going on. It's more than just there's invaders in the Soul Society. The Ryoka are invading. They're also putting Rukia to death. And yeah. Yeah, why would they not fight them? They even thought, example, yeah, Antonio in the chat is spinning. They thought that Ichigo caused the death of Aizen, or at least they suspected that Ryoka did it. So yeah, it doesn't really make too much sense to me, but I guess you could have your own like preference there. You know, you could be like, I wish that maybe at least one captain was in the world of the living. I don't really see that as a criticism. I see that more as he's just saying, you know.
That Soul Society
But
made
yeah,
me
let's
wonder,
continue.
and I'd like to share some of them with you now. Hey, what are the people in Soul Society? Like, what are they? Because there's Soul Reapers in the Serite, right? But then, like, there's people on the outskirts, and why is there a class?
What? Oh, so let me explain what they are. They're literally dead humans that have been, through a conso, have arrived in the Soul Society. Some of them are born with high amounts of Ryatsu, and they can join the Soul Society, the Serite. And become shinigami. What do you mean what they are? I mean, it's kind of explained in like the first chapter. Yeah, they're souls. So I don't know what that point was. The second point, why is there a class system in heaven? Because Kubo decided that there was one, and it was kind of shown throughout the entire story that there was going to be a class system. I mean, it's the afterlife.
System in the afterlife. Why? Why are some people poor? Is there money?
Why not? Is there money? Yes, there is money. Let me check the chat to see if anything's going on. In the traditional sense, it was established that captains are out in the world of the living often. It's a rather rare case. Exactly. It is a rare case. But to kind of get into like the more money thing that he's putting, I think it was either chapter 12 through 15, somewhere in there. I think like 13. It's actually established that there is money in the Serite. And then in the novels, it's established more. Like, you get more of an idea of how the money works. But it's like a bounty system, whereas, like, the Shinigami get paid for killing X, Y, and Z Hollow. And we also come to an understanding that Shinigami also get normal income for their rank if they're part of the squad members. So, yes, there is a money system in the afterlife. And this is something that's really established really early on before they even go to the Soul Society. Again, chapter 13... I think it is where Rukia is trading in hollows to the to Kisuke for money. So yeah, that kind of establishes it, and that builds that world. But I think that was taken out of the anime. So if you only saw the first arc through the anime perspective, it would make sense why he doesn't know. You know, I don't know if you read the manga or the anime. Why is there a class system? Because yeah, Kubo wanted one in his story. I mean, there's no reason not to have one, and it's pretty. Kubo elaborates on it quite often throughout the series, especially more so in the light novels, but throughout the Soul Society arc through 1,000 Year Blood War, it is established and grown throughout the flashbacks, throughout this, and that. The Soul Society is a corrupt place, and they're ruled practically by the royal families, which, with the Soul King, kind of being like their subject almost, because of what they did to him, but I'm not going to go nitpick and go into all these details. But yeah, so money was established in chapter 13, and then class system is just how Kubo decided that he wanted his afterlife. I mean, you can have your preference. You can be like, I wish there wasn't a class system in the afterlife. But at the end of the day, that's just what he decided to do, you know? I mean, I think it makes the story more interesting, and it kind of makes the story more fun for me. But if that's your personal preference, that's your personal preference.
In heaven? Like, what is going on here? And now, I don't even know if these details were just expanded upon in some other extended lore or whatever.
They were expanded on pretty well in the manga, but I definitely feel like the political aspect is mostly delved into way more deeply in the light novels. They're just kind of more so established, with some expanding in the manga.
But this is just so crazy that Kubo never really went in depth to explain some of these aspects of the world he created.
But I think all those aspects have been explained. I mean, through Rukia's backstory, we get sections where she's like, I was born in this district of the Rukangai, which was a poor district, meaning that we know that these districts are more poor, and the further that you get from the Serite, the more poor the district is. So, the class system is pretty well established for the most part. I think at least. I think it was actually very well established, especially how nobles got had more Ryatsu. They were treated better because they had more Ryatsu. And even the lucky poor Shinigami that had more Ryatsu got treated worse inside of schooling and worse than this. And then when Rukia finally got adopted, there was all that. But yeah, I don't really agree with your point here at all. I think some of it is personal preference, but some of it is just no. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I gotta chill out. This is like I'm really trying here. Okay, so one of my other biggest annoyances in this arc has to be Ichigo's progression. It was
Soul Society isn't heaven. It's not like it's the afterlife, but it's not like a it's not supposed to be an amazing place that's like super special.
Too strange. Okay, now I was careful to choose my words there because I'm of two minds with this one. Either Ichigo is this insanely powerful mutant that we all know him to be, and
yeah, Ichigo is literally built different, and it makes sense inside the story with the overarching theme of Bleach being identity, and the whole story of Ichigo is him finding his identity, understanding his identity, and finally accepting his identity. So yeah, Ichigo is built different, and that's why he progresses the way he does.
He just progresses like a wild animal, which, you know, for the most part, he does, and he has, like, ridiculously latent powers. But at the same time, there's also this other issue where...
Oh, my desk. Guess I should probably cover this up, because that's a receipt. Anyway, that's books and schoolwork. Anyway, what was he saying?
He does, and he has, like, ridiculously latent powers. But at the same time, there's also this other issue where he's kind of presented as slowly picking up and building his strength to fight progressively stronger opponents, and he...
That's I'm sorry, I can't remember the chapter, but Aizen literally reveals that that's the point. I mean, the way that Shinigami can grow in power very quickly, Ichigo has the advantage being a noble from one of the noble clans, thanks to his father, and also being having his mother, you know, being Quincy and all that. There's a bunch of stuff that goes into why Ichigo is the way he is. But that was literally the whole point. Aizen slowly tried to send opponents that were slightly stronger after Ichigo, arranged battles around Ichigo to slowly grow his strength so that he would slowly progress his way up. So, this is another point I think gets explained in the manga, if that makes sense.
He's working his way up the ladder. And the best way I could actually describe this issue can be boiled down to this statement. Ikaku had a Bankai.
I mean, Ikaku did have a Bankai.
Ichigo's an intruder.
Okay. Let me clear this point real quick. And I mean, you know that Ikaku has a Bankai. Do you know why he used his Bankai when he used it? Do you know why he didn't use his Bankai when he used it? If you've read Bleach, and I think it's like chapter 203 to between 203 to 206. No, I think it's like exactly 205 where it's revealed in Ikaku's backstory. Ikaku doesn't want to use his Bankai because he doesn't want other people to know he has a Bankai. He is literally willing, he would rather die, because I remember in chapter 300 and 320 something or 30 something, when Ikaku is fighting one of those Fractions, one of Baragon's Fractions, he is refusing to use his Bankai, even if it means his death, because he doesn't care if he dies. He wants to fight and die as Kenpachi's subordinate. And he refuses for other people to find out about his Bankai. And that is Ikaku's entire character summed up. This point doesn't really make much sense because of that core principle. Yet, he literally says why he doesn't use his Bankai inside of chapter 206 or something like that.
Infiltrated the highest well-guarded part of heaven to do a criminal act in freeing Rukia.
He doesn't care. He just wants to have a fun fight. He isn't going to use his Bankai. He's just gonna risk he is in an area where like everybody has high Ryatsu sensibilities. They'll immediately sense his Bankai and be like, oh my gosh, Ikaku has a Bankai, now we know. Now Ikaku's gonna get harassed.
Seems like good cause to use your fucking Bankai. It's just, it strikes this like odd nerve in my brain, and it's something that I just genuinely can't get over. Like,
Ikaku's entire character is built off him not wanting to use his Bankai with other people being able to sense it.
That just sense. Has to be bad.
Looking back at Ichigo's progression in Soul Society, it makes sense. Every power-up in the Artless arc makes sense. Zangetsu let out more power in every fight. Yeah, well, you watch Old Man Zangetsu.
Right. Yeah. I can't even.
It's not bad writing.
Strong enough to take it. You know what I mean? Because let's say Ikaku is probably as strong as like a vice captain.
So that's less of his own like personal like decision. That's more so an actual statement that's wrong, because we know why Ikaku didn't use Bankai, and it makes perfect sense as it's been revealed in the story. And we even have examples where Kubo stays consistent and he doesn't let Ikaku go Bankai, even if it means something gets destroyed, like in the chapter 320 through 330, somewhere in there, where Ikaku gets nearly killed.
Or a lieutenant or something, right? Ichigo wasn't that strong yet. He didn't get to lieutenant level until he eventually fought Renji again, which, by the way, Renji is like the weakest lieutenant I've ever seen.
I'm sorry. So Renji's not the weakest lieutenant, actually. He's actually one of the strongest lieutenants. Even in Soul Society arc, I would still regard him as one of the stronger lieutenants. I'd probably have Tojiro higher than him and Nemu higher than him. But what? Renji being one of the weakest lieutenants. I never saw that. I guess we could do a power scaling recording together. I mean, I'd be down. We could discuss it, debate it, but okay, let's just keep listening.
In retrospect. Also, why did Renji use his Bankai? What the fuck?
He didn't have his Bankai. I actually think I remember these chapters exactly. Renji fights Ichigo in like chapter 95, and he isn't able to use his Bankai till like chapter 130 or 140. Like, he finally uses his Bankai to fight Byakuya later on because he trained to achieve it right next to Ichigo in the arc. So that's why he didn't use it.
What's going on here? I gotta calm down, bro. These are just like mild annoyances for me. They
aren't mild annoyances. I mean, these two statements are wrong. There are some statements in your video, but like he said 20 to 30% of his video, 20 to 30% of his points were wrong, like later. So these could potentially be some of the points that he's talking about, because these are just points that if you go back to the manga, open up, they're wrong. And some of them have been personal preferences in the video, but those two statements right there about Ikaku and Renji are flat out just misinformation. But yeah,
it did sort of detract from the general enjoyment of the arc on repeat viewings, but on the first watch, it was actually a really fun arc. Soul Society literally introduced almost all of my favorite characters. You got Ikaku, you got Kenpachi, you got Aizen, and Aizen made one hell of an entrance, and just everything we learned about how he set up this entire thing, not necessarily why he did it. Kubo actually held back on revealing why Aizen did what he did. We didn't get to find out what that was until after he was defeated with...
And you don't even get to know like the main details of that too. Like, it's very subtle. Like, you have an understanding of somewhat what Aizen desired, but unless you like truly take a look at Aizen's character, truly analyze it to its crisp, we still like have only a small true understanding of Aizen. That's what really makes him such a great antagonist, in my opinion. I mean, we can understand him, but we can't fully understand him, I feel like.
This conversation with Urahara. Generally, I did enjoy the vast
without completely like, analyzing his character.
Soul Society. I just think there are little grievances I have with it that all kind of cumulatively build up into causing me this...
Agreed, Antonio, and he agrees with it. Like, he literally said that, so I think that was a good
sense of
point.
Displeasure. Like, I just had a lot of water, but it had like a teaspoon of salt in it. So with that in mind, I think I want to give Soul Society a solid 8.5 out of 10 maximum.
Okay.
I think it was really, really good. So after Aizen's betrayal, we learn that he had taken over Hueco Mundo, this kind of purgatory for hollows, and he had built up his own...
Purgatory for hollows. It's more like the hollows' home.
Little team of genetically modified hollows that he calls Arrancars. Now, these things are basically the product of a bunch of really, really strong hollows who had consumed other hollows.
He's just explaining the details of the
hollows
arc.
To take their initial form, being beefed up by this thing called the Hogyoku, which Aizen is using to create more of them and essentially elevate to the next stage in evolution to transcend beyond the gods. Now, the thing that I really like about Aizen in general as a villain is that aside from his general demeanor and personality, his cold calculating nature in that he's
we'll have to wait and see, blind one.
He's 6-7 steps ahead, and Mayuri is 12 steps ahead, and Urahara is literally on an extra-dimensional Lovecraftian level playing chess with the literal stars. Aizen is third smartest character in the entire series.
Wait, no. I'm fixing this light, but I just heard a statement in there. Aizen's third strongest character in the series. Third smartest. Sorry, that's what he said, right?
Lovecraftian level playing chess with the literal stars. Aizen is third smartest character.
He isn't. He is the second smartest character. The only individual smarter than Aizen is is Kisuke. He literally says that to Kisuke's face, that Kisuke is the only smartest person. So is he saying Mayuri? Because I was focused on
Mayuri is 12 steps ahead, and Urahara is literally on an extra dimensional.
What?
Lovecraftian level, playing chess with the literal stars. Aizen is third smartest character in the entire series.
Yeah, no, that is another statement that I mean, I'm nitpicking, I guess. But Aizen's the second smartest character.
And he's genuinely just such a joy to watch. And one of the things that really sucks about...
Oh yeah, of course Mayuri would disagree, but Mayuri also didn't fight Aizen head on like Kisuke did. If Mayuri was smarter than Aizen, we would have I feel like, yeah. And then we also, like Tense, we have an example. Aizen made his Hokyoku. Kisuke made his Hokyoku. Sure, Aizen's was failed and he had to combine it with Kisuke's to make it work properly, but he still. Mayuri may be smart. I think he has some stuff on Aizen, but overall I think Aizen is definitely smarter.
Arrancar is that you just don't get much of him. After this epic grand reveal and all this hype about Aizen, in this huge arc where he's officially the villain, you don't get to see him be the villain.
Yeah, it's called build-up.
Now here's my problem with the Arrancar arc. It was just the Soul Society arc, but worse. And there's this...
We got the statement, boys! Obviously, this is just my own disagreement. I made a video on this, so I'm just going to have to respectfully say I disagree with you at the end of the day. But I'm excited to hear how you explain this
running
point.
Theory I've seen where people are saying, oh yeah, but don't you know every single arc has something to do with one of Ichigo's friends? So Soul Society was Rika's arc, and then Arrancar...
It's not really a running theory.
...was Orahime's arc, and then Fullbringer was Chad's arc. Don't get me started on Fullbringer. As minimal as the character development for Rukia was supposed to be for what is supposedly her arc, it's even worse for Urahime and Arrancar.
So Soul Society is actually Rukia and Renji's arc, and you can tell that very clearly by watching. I mean, the entire story is Rukia and her brother, and how Ichigo handles that. I think it's pretty heavy on Rukia's arc.
If we were to take this conclusion all the way to its natural end and assume that
Rika, we don't talk about that, Antonio. We'll move on.
Then I ask you, in what way? In what way did this arc help us learn more about Orihime, her character, her motivations, literally almost anything about her? There's stuff like the thing with Ichigo, for example, right, where she was given this weird fixation / fear that Ichigo would become a hollow, and I remember seeing that for the first time where it was mentioned canonically, and I was like, is this a thing she's always been afraid of? What is she basing this fear on?
So you're referring only to the Ukiyo-ura moment, because earlier in the arc we actually see that. Let me hear him finish this point, because I'll say one thing: she's basing the fear off her brother. But I'll finish my point after I finish hearing his point.
Has she ever seen Ichigo white before? I don't think she has. Maybe she saw him using his visor mask. I cannot bring myself to come up with any sort of situation or reason why she would be having these reactions to Ichigo turning into a monster. Because
her brother got turned into a monster. So I assume that you're talking about the Ukiyo-ura moment where he becomes a literal hollow monster being, when he takes his Vasto Lorde form. But we see several moments prior to that of Ohime not only being scared of his hollow mask, but even before that. First of all, she saw it against Grimmjow, like what Antonio said. That was chapter 281, or 282, or 280. I think the fight is 280 through 287, something like that. But anyway, so she saw it against Grimmjow, and when she saw the mask, she thought about her brother. It freaked her out a little bit, and that's why she's basing her fear off. Her brother became a hollow, and she is scared that the same thing might happen to Ichigo. Her brother still talked to her normally, but there was a slight shift in his voice. There was a slight shift in his attitude. And yes, she was scared that Ichigo was going to do that, and especially in his Vasto Lorde form, she was scared of that. So that's why she was scared of the Vasto Lorde mask. Just the mask in general.
He isn't, obviously, right? He's speaking to her the entire time. He's going out of his way to reassure her, which I guess teases their future love.
Alright, so I think he's also talking about the Grimmjow moment. He's talking about the Grimmjow moment, and he's talking about the Ukiyo-ura moment. So for the Grimmjow moment, she's shaken, but eventually she reassures herself and stops being shaken. At first, when she first sees the hollow mask, she's like, oh my gosh, he could be turning into my brother. It's changing. So that's why that's where her fear is based on. It's her brother. in chapter 5 of Bleach, one of the first chapters of Bleach. Like you said, the substitute Shinigami arc is like the foundation core of Bleach, and that is where Ohime's basing her fear of in that moment. But she reaffirms herself and realizes this is Ichigo. That's why in her head she's like, is this really Ichigo? Because she just experienced that with her brother. Was that really her brother when her brother was doing those horrible things that she wasn't expecting? And then as the plot progresses to the Ukiura moment, I mean, it's obvious why. Ichigo literally turns into a monster. Ichigo literally hurts Ryu. Of course she'd be scared, you know? Her worst fears have come true. Ichigo is now a monster. He has lost control. And you actually see Nell and Ichigo, you know, them together helping Ohime realize that Ichigo isn't turning into a monster until that Ukiura moment where he does, and then she has the true mental breakdown. It's more so she sees the hollow mask and she thinks back to her brother and has almost that PTSD and is scared, like genuinely scared that Ichigo might become what her brother became. So yeah.
Or whatever, like something about Orihime and Ichigo's dynamic kind of rubs me the wrong way. Even in story, it made no fucking sense because, you know, when Rukia got into Soul Society and she was arrested and they had to save her, there was like layers to it, right? And it was like part of Aizen's master plan. But for Orihime, even though she is still part of Aizen's master plan, it's not to the same degree. He just, for some reason, lied to everybody about his interest in her powers, which, by the way, are so bizarre. They are actually...
Yeah, somebody says in the chat, Ichigo even understands her fear because of her brother.
Bizarre. That should have been a whole thread. Urihime's powers are just weird. They're never,
okay.
By the way, the same degree.
Okay, I want to pause it there. I don't really get this point. I'm going to just respectfully disagree. I guess you just didn't like their dynamic. I thought the dynamic made perfect sense, but this is your own experience of Bleach, so if you didn't like their dynamic and it didn't make sense to you, then it didn't make sense to you, like, at the end of the day. I love their dynamic. I think it's amazing, but again, that's just going to be a personal opinion, you know? I respectfully disagree, yeah.
Just, for some reason, lied to everybody about his interest in her powers, which, by the way, are so bizarre. They are actually bizarre. That should have been a whole thread. Urihime's powers are just weird. They're never explained. Even Chad's powers are explained as, like, being a Fullbringer, but Urihime's never. And it turns out even Aizen doesn't give a shit, because it was just all to distract him and get Ichigo to fight Ukiura. I don't know. I think Arrancar was a little bit more
I disagree with that, but I'm going to move on just for the sake of time.
Sloppy, and the general vibe that I get from this arc is that there were characters that got a lot of nice development, and it introduced some truly amazing, like, well-written villains in the Espada, specifically Grimmjow and Ukiura. And I feel like people are going to hate me for saying this, but Grimmjow and Ukiura got way more attention in character development than Gin ever did in the last two arcs.
Yeah, because that's the point of Gin. I'm sorry, Gin wasn't supposed to be that snake that was stealthily in the background. He was supposed to be quiet. If he got too much stuff, it would have been actually kind of bad, in my opinion. His reveal would have hurt, and it wouldn't have been the same. I mean, but yeah, let's keep watching.
And that's a shame, honestly. I would have liked to have seen more of him and why he chose to go down the path he chose. Aside from his, like, supposedly secret love for Rengiku, which was, like, barely teased. I don't know.
Barely teased, I would greatly kind of disagree, because we do get a flashback for Genichimaru on chapter 129. Where it's Rangiku dreaming about her past with Gin, and then also in chapter, like, I think it's like 10 chapters later, like 132, 133, well, that's more like 4 or 5, while Gin fights Toshiro, he literally leaves the battle once Rangiku shows up, and it's heavily implied that he, like, left because of her. And then later on, he literally says sorry to Rangiku. There was plenty of teasing for their relationship. It definitely didn't come out from left field. It wasn't barely anything. Just his character needed to be subtle because that's who he was. He was a snake. That was the purpose of his character. And it really gets teased heavily as he fights Ichigo and so on near the end. But yeah, so... Oh, my chat's going ballistic. He literally says sorry to her in Soul Society when he and Aizen and Tozen betrayed. Gin wanted revenge because Aizen took a piece of her soul for the Hokyoku. Didn't Aizen say he actually kidnapped Ohime to draw a lot of fighting power to Wake Mundo before he disappeared? Yeah, my chat's going ballistic in disagreement. But yeah, so that's my statement on your Gin stuff. Now, you could have wanted more, and that can be your personal preference, but there's my take on your take, I guess. It definitely did come out of left field, and there was definitely, I feel like, easily enough, if not more than enough, to draw your own conclusion. In fact, like, the fandom was, like, probably, like, really curious on what was going on because there was so much for Gin. Like, there was that flashback. There was him absolutely just not choosing to fight. Like, you can line up the dots and see something going on, something weird going on behind the scenes with his character. And especially his relationship with Rangiku is obvious at the very least. After all, she was the person he said sorry to. She's the reason that he stopped fighting Toshiro after she stopped his sword. And then also inside the flashback that Rangiku has, there's that.
Oh man, I didn't like the disrespecting
So,
guy.
yeah.
I think he had potential to be a far more interesting character, especially after his betrayal. Like even Tozen got far more development.
Yeah, exactly. Because I totally agree
I
with
think
you.
he got a really, really nice arc. And,
Tozen got great stuff.
and
I agree
in the
with
end,
that.
he was sort of like half redeemed. He had his Darth.
I mean, I also disagree with his like earlier statement about Grimmjow and Ukiura. As much as I love Grimmjow, he's not my second favorite Espada. I don't even think he's the second best written Espada.
Vader moment with his lieutenant. It just sucks that for characters that were supposedly there from the beginning with Aizen, were more or less given a back seat. And if you couldn't already tell by how
I guess this is just a personal preference thing. He just thinks that they deserved a little more. I think Gin, if he had more, would have ruined his plot twist. I think Kaname had just enough, like plenty. But I mean, technically, I guess like the light novels make Kaname's story better. So if you really want more Kaname, you can peep the light novels, man. I highly recommend it. But yeah, I think the Kaname take here is more his own personal preference, you know. But yeah.
I titled this part of the video, yeah, what's the deal with Ichigo and his team not killing literal demons that kidnapped Urahime, his supposed, like, one true love, and threatened to destroy, you know, everything? This arc is so fucking long. Next up...
Okay, so his take right there is that's more, I guess, a personal preference, like he didn't kill what's going on. Ichigo tries to understand his opponents first, and it's not that he would never refuse to kill him. In fact, he's really struggled with the concept of killing. In fact, like with Aizen, I think James was telling me, the actual Japanese word that was used to defeat Aizen, like I need to defeat Aizen, was I need to kill Aizen. That was Ichigo's mindset when it came to Aizen. Now, he failed to kill Aizen in the end. But yeah, he does have the mindset to kill. But I guess I think it's more so that's like part of Ichigo's arc is him rationalizing killing things, you know. And he has you know, I mean, even early on, I think it's just because the spy became more human, he was trying to understand him. Like Dodorni, he could understand that there was more behind Dodorni than meets the eye. You know what I mean? Like, he knew that there was, like, something going on with Dodorni. Even with other characters as well. But I'm not going to, like, get wrapped around this point too much because this is just a personal preference type joint. I do agree. I think there could have been a little bit more, but, like, I think there was plenty, and I think it makes it to where when he does choose to kill, it's so much more impactful. You know what I mean?
The 110 years
Yeah, Nightfall has it. Ichigo tried to go for Aizen. Like, Ichigo was trying to kill Aizen.
back arc. Now, this is a little intermission between the Aizen fight arc and the fight with Ukiura. Now, I want to be honest with you guys. I loved this arc, okay? Urahara is one of my favorite characters in all of fiction now, and this arc was just an amazing display into how the groundwork for the rest of the series was set. The origins of the Visor, freeing Mayuri, and the first confrontation with Aizen was just fantastic. I don't even really have complaints about this arc. I just, not for like one small nitpick I had with that, Urahara and any of the Vizards could have just come to Yamamoto or whoever and just went to Soul Society and been like, Aizen's evil. He did this to us.
They did that. In the last chapter of Turn Back the Pendulum, 315.8, they actually do go to, when they're being judged, they literally state the obvious and say, Aizen is evil. He did this. Guess what? Aizen was 10 steps ahead. Aizen had a man that was playing him while he was at the event. They saw Aizen in the Soul Society. They had no reason to trust Kisuke. And the Vizards were turned into these hollow creatures, so why would the Soul Society trust Vizards? Because now they're half hollow. So they literally did. It's just they didn't believe him because Aizen had the proof of him being there. So that's why they didn't trust him. They truly believed Kisuke was the mastermind behind it, and that's why. So they did go to him in 315.8. Also, Kisuke's unable to go to the Soul Society, at least in the moment, because I believe in the final chapter it shows him trying to touch the portal, and there's like a field where he can't enter. So I'm sure he could like go around that using his like mind, you know, because he's so intelligent. But yeah. And that's like chapter 69 or 70 if you're curious. Kisuke did, but Aizen was sealed, right? Exactly. All the evidence point towards Kisuke being the person who was evil. Yeah. Never heard of this video, can't lie. How are you doing? The video is actually relatively new. It just hit the community on Twitter. So I'm making a video. I'm trying to be as respectful as possible because I do respect this person's view. I just think a lot of his takes are, like, just because he probably could have relooked at something and been like, oh, this. And then some of the stuff is personal preference that he stated that I just disagree with personal preference. And then I think there's been one or two things I've agreed with.
Aizen's behind it all. It did not take 100 years for the Vizards to chill and for Urahara to open his shop and chill out until 17 plus years before the story happened where Ichigo was born. It's not... They could have said something. There are ways to get a message to Soul Society. I'm just saying.
They tried to get a message to Soul Society.
It's just irritating that they never did. Yeah, final score for the 110 Years Back arc, 9 out of 10. Really good. I really enjoyed it. Probably one of my favorite arcs in all of Bleach. Anyway, we finally
I respect that score.
The battle in
that score is probably the same score I'd give the arc.
Karakura Town. So the Battle of Karakura Town was mostly pretty good. It was just really annoying that Kenpachi and Byakuya were out of action for most of it. Like, also Yami becoming zero makes no sense. As a matter of fact, none of the power scaling makes any sense. Like, how did Ukiura and Grim...
Yeah, no. I agree with, like, the whole, I mean, that's just a personal preference. Like, it sucks that Byakuya and Kenpachi aren't there. I mean, they're two of the best characters, so, yeah, I mean, fair. Yeah. I like the other characters that were there. I really love this arc. As for Yami being the Zeroth Espada, I mean, I agree. I didn't really like I thought the reveal wasn't the best. I thought it was poorly done. So, I mean, I think that's a valid take overall.
Numbers 4 and 6, by the way, look the most dangerous and way more impressive out of all these.
No, so far it's actually had unique takes, just other takes that, like for example, he said, like, something about Rangiku's relationship that didn't make much sense. He said that Ikaku not using Bankai against Ichigo was a problem. And same thing for Renji, even though Renji didn't have his Bankai. Yeah, it was cringe.
And you're telling me Stark was number 1? Stark, Coyote guy. He was number 1. This guy.
You're forgetting that the ranks were not done with Ukiura's second release in mind. The ranks were done with only Ukiura's first release in mind. As for Grimmjow, I agree with his placement, and I think Baragon looks way more intimidating than Grimmjow ever did. Stark wasn't supposed to look intimidating either. He was supposed to look, like, laid back. Like, that was the purpose of Stark's character, even though he was, like, number 1. I love Stark. Stark is amazing, especially his character development and, like, how his character goes. Like, the "I'm not alone," line, that's so good. Stark is my second favorite Espada, sometimes my favorite. He, like, goes hand to hand with Ukiura. I love Stark so much. But yeah.
Was stronger than this? Unbelievable, dude. Listen, I want to talk about this man Urahara for a second because...
But there's plenty of evidence that points to Ukiura being stronger than Stark. Like, him having the second release wasn't really calculated, I guess, when it came to, like, the power, the ranking of the Espada. So, yeah.
This man
Same moment.
is a demon. Like, he's by far the biggest villain in Bleach. No,
let's go. Kisuke love.
Moves ahead, but not this many moves proactively ahead. Urahara is the best reactionary character in this entire show, and nobody can tell me otherwise. They can be like, "Oh, don't you realize he preps for every situation?" Yeah, after it happens, this guy takes no preventative measures, and it doesn't change how cool he is in my eyes. But it's still very wild to me that he'll go down this route of making like 3, 4, 5, 600 plans for one single event, but he'll never have the foresight to just plan in advance for something or stopping something from happening. I just don't get why he doesn't go that far. It's weird. And the fact that he was able to come up with a plan to just...
Yeah, Stark also has his feats. It's just because Stark's powers aren't, like, as, like, freaky looking, I mean, they don't, like, you don't look at them and it doesn't scream power. It screams more the concept of solitude. I don't really get the point that he's saying. That's just how Kisuke rolls.
Bind and cage Aizen after he had already evolved beyond his hollow monster form really strikes a nerve with me.
Wait, so he's saying... Well, you have to realize, Kisuke realized that he couldn't stop Aizen before that. And that's why Aizen, like... it wasn't really... I wouldn't say that it's reactionary. I think he, like, took proactive measures against Aizen. It just, he used it in what appeared to be reactionary reactions. You know what I mean? But, like, they're both reactionary. Like, they definitely appear as reactionary, but the reactionariness doesn't feel flawed because it makes sense with their character and their intellect and how they're established. Like, they always have, like, one step ahead of the person before them, and it makes sense. And I mean, you're saying that makes sense, but you're saying that he didn't take proactive measures against Aizen, when, in fact, I think he did. I mean, like, I think it's like blatantly shown that he did. It's just he couldn't stop Aizen, and by the time he could, Aizen had already merged with what was the Hokyoku. And I mean, Kisuke, as strong as Kisuke is, as intelligent as Kisuke can't take on the entire Espada, and he was caught up creating the transport between Wako Mundo and the world of the living, the Gargantua. He was busy setting that up for the captains and all that. So like there was stuff going on, there was time taking up, and yeah. Example, yeah, Ichigo was needed for the seal. Kisuke relied on Ichigo for his main plan, and even then Ichigo had more plans. Kisuke was planning ahead even in his battle with Aizen. He was using those Kido as a distraction. But yeah, overall, I guess it's just a pet peeve he has, which is very opinionated. I have the opposite view. I mean, I respectfully disagree with you.
Because, dude, you could have just stopped him before that, before he ascended or whatever. Now Aizen's immortal, right? I don't care what anybody says. Like, Aizen won in the end, in my eyes.
Agreed. Aizen did win. He's immortal. He can just outlive his sentence. His Kizo wouldn't have activated without Ichigo. The only real issue I have with the final is Dangai Ichigo could have been handled better. Felt too sudden. I loved it. I liked it. I think that's just like a personal preference, Ahmed. Like, I disagree with your view, but at the end of the day, it's just so opinionated on that. It's hard to yeah. I think it's more like a personal preference type thing.
And then finally, we have the sequel to the Arrancar arc, which is basically the fight with Aizen. I'd say the first half was like...
I'm pretty sure he watched the anime, because these are all individual anime arcs. These aren't like the manga arc, like the manga arc called Arrancar, because otherwise it's not really a sequel arc. It's literally a direct line arc.
At 9.5 out of 10. Aizen explaining his master plan, just
that
flexing on
was
everybody,
fire, by the way.
destroying all these captains, just being an absolute menace, and then schooling Urahara, Yurichi, and Ishin, and then ascending, and it was just amazing. And then he does this weird thing where he wants to half kill Ichigo's human friends, even though for some reason, why can they survive his Ryatsu? That makes no sense. Okay, I'm just gonna skip over a little bit. So after Ichigo finally...
I mean, okay. Yeah, I get that.
Learns the final Getsuga Tensho and defeats Aizen, he loses all of his Soul Reaper powers, right? But I thought it was such a brilliant way to go about ending the series, if I'm being honest, because Ichigo losing his powers after defeating a villain as big as Aizen, that could have been a great end for Bleach right there. And his final question / confrontation with Urahara was definitely one of my favorite moments in the entire series. I want to give it an 8.5 because I really liked Gin's moment as well. That was really cool. That was the end of Arrancar, that was the defeat of Aizen, and in my opinion, that should have been the end of Bleach.
That's where we're going to have to respectfully disagree, man. Ichigo's identity wasn't fully developed. There was still a ton of things foreshadowed that weren't fully, done in the series. There was tons of characters that were built up and needed to be expanded upon. I would have hated that to be the end of the Bleach. If you desired it, then fair. I mean, I just got to say, I respectfully disagree. It would have removed a lot of stuff I love in Bleach. So I respectfully disagree with you, man. I love that part of Bleach. Doesn't mean I think it should be the ending. Okay. I just disagree with it. But I still respectfully disagree with it, I guess I could say. I mean, if your personal preference was, this is where I think the story should have ended, then go for it. I just gotta disagree. I can't, it's your own personal viewing experience, I guess.
Main things that I get really irritated about when it comes to Bleach is just that Kubo's writing style leaves a lot to be desired.
Oh, I forgot. We're skipping the Fullbringer section. I've watched it. I'm just not... I disagree with the Fullbringer section so much that I'm not really going to go in for it. Pretty much, he says it's a 3 out of 10. And he says that the only arc's purpose in the end was giving Ichigo his powers back. And I just disagree with all that. I do agree with his Chad take. Chad deserved more. His boy Chad got overused. But yeah, no, I'm not watching it. I refuse. I've already watched it once. I'm not going through that again. I skipped it the second time I was watching through the video too. I just disagree with it. I'll respectfully disagree with you. I agree that Quincy could have been better foreshadowed, but I agree the MC character wasn't fully realized. Bleach had more going for it. So another holy statement. I don't remember if he calls Ichigo getting his powers back at Deus Ex Machina. I think he says that he thinks that they could have just gotten his powers back a different way, and it would have been better. He wishes the Fullbringer arc never happened. But yeah. I mean, that's another day. I actually plan on making a Fullbringer video. I disagree with the video. I think Ichigo develops from like a crap load throughout the arc. I think in that arc, in the final moments, Ichigo decides to kill someone. I mean, because that's been a major issue that you brought up inside your video, is Ichigo not killing people. But inside the Fullbringer arc, he does kill somebody. And in fact, he wants to kill Tsukishima really badly, in fact. And his whole life is pulled upside down as everybody he desired to have a relationship with, everybody he has a relationship with, is now against him and hates him. The people he went to Soul Society now hates him and despises him for who he is because he hurt Tsukishima. They hate him. Oh, Hime crying as she watches Ichigo getting hurt even though she feels like she's supposed to hate them, but he just can't. She can't understand her emotions. Amazing moment. Tsukishima and Byakuya as Tsukishima tries to change Byakuya's memory. Even early Fullbringer as Ichigo is trying to cope and as he's trying to like deal with not having powers, being unable to protect people after Ryu got his butt whooped. Like, I think Fullbring was incredible and amazing. But I don't really feel like going through this section again and talking about everything. Yeah, especially because that distinction was made, Antonio. Killing hollows and Arrancars was always different than actual humans, and Tsukishima and Ginja were actual humans. So yeah. And one of my favorite panels in all of Bleach is literally Tsukishima, him thinking about wanting to kill Tsukishima. But yeah, it's just going to be a matter of disagreement, a different perspective, I guess. I love the arc. He doesn't like it. I just got to respectfully disagree, because this is respectful discourse.
Is the 1,000-Year Blood War arc. I think this is by far and away my favorite arc of Bleach. Stunning moments, some beautiful character work, some great world building, like phenomenal, like A+ world building. Especially with you watch his origins, all the different parts of the Soul King. It's amazing. He popped off in that arc. But there is a fair bit of forgiveness that I give to this arc, despite its many shortcomings that I don't give to the other arcs in Bleach. And here's why. It's basically a tale as old as time at this point, right? A mangaka's health always declines and the work suffers because they're just overworked like dogs, and Kubo is no exception. So I give him a lot of forgiveness for this last arc because it was still amazing despite how much he had to rush it to just put an end to his own like suffering, basically. So despite that, there are some things that I think he still done in the time frame he gave himself. Like for example, Kenpachi's Bankai should have been more significant, way more decisive, because we all know Kubo's bad habit of if it's not Ichigo's like full power, then the fights basically go A wins, then B reveals a secret, then C reveals that he's like planned the secret, and then basically like the end of the fight. Both Kenpachi.
I disagree with that take right there. Heavily. Somebody says I feel a butt coming. I mean, I think there's a few examples of fights going around like that, but like that's like every battle shonen. It's pretty, I think, like, we know which characters have their Bankai, with a few exceptions. We know which characters have a secret up their sleeves before, and the only main fights that go like that, I feel like there's a few other examples out there, of course, but the only main fights that feel that way, I would say, are Kisuke, Mayuri's, and Aizen's, but all three of those guys, in their fights, everything makes sense. Why it's going the way it is, you know, like you never doubt it, and it doesn't ever feel like it's like a Deus Ex Machina, or it doesn't ever feel like it comes out of nowhere, or like they were hiding it, you know what I mean?
His Bankai was like truly unique, and it turned him into a wild animal, and it made him super powerful. He cut Gerard Valkyrie in half. That's the heart of the Soul King, dude. And if it wasn't for his arm getting ripped off by his own power, I think he could have definitely won that fight, and he should have won that fight. The payoff would have been great, especially after the Unohana fight he had, where he like finally awakened and became the true Kenpachi. So I think I can boil my disappointment and criticisms down into one sentence. I think that
So, I actually agree with his Gerard take. I feel like the Gerard fight could have been a lot more satisfying. Whereas when you watch, used up the Australian light to take Jugrim back. I think that was very satisfying because it worked really well with Jugrim's character. But with Gerard, it just felt kind of unsatisfying in a sense. Almost like the battle was incomplete. It didn't feel satisfying enough with the way that Gerard was handled. So I do agree with him. The fight just didn't feel very satisfying overall. But I do think that we get that Unohana moment, like that he is the Kenpachi when he fights Gremmy. So I think that more than makes up for what happens with Gerard. So yeah. So I do agree that I wish that it happened differently how Gerard was handled. I can agree to that.
1000-Year Blood War arc has the potential to be one of the greatest arcs in manga and anime once it's finally animated in 2021, and it falls short of its own potential. But it's really, I think, an act of, like, I don't want to say sympathy because that sounds like I'm pitying him, which is, like, a little condescending, but it's an act of, like, respect for the mangaka to, like, just provide this thing in the first place that I'm like, yeah, I can understand, like, on a human level. It took a lot out of you, and I don't fully blame you for the thing having
Totally agree with you, Ahmed.
actions and quality because of it. So that's my 2 cents. The 1000-Year Blood War arc definitely had so much more potential, but I don't blame it for not reaching it. So I want to quickly touch on the one-shot and the Howls of the Jaws of Hell arc that just got announced. And I think the implication is that it's like a new arc, and Bleach the manga is coming back in addition to the anime getting its own adaptation for the 1000-Year Blood War arc. If this is Kubo coming back in full perfect health and like ready to just go into the weeds with Bleach, then yeah, this has the potential to be like an insanely big arc. Here's the thing, I'm scared on 2 levels. One,
I agree. His video has issues, Nightfall, but it's better than Eye Patch Wolf's video. Like I genuinely do agree, Nightfall, with that. Like, there's been a few takes in this arc where I said it's either his own personal experience with it or I agree. Most of the takes I said I disagree and provide my reasons why, but yeah. I think that the video, yeah, more vague. But then he goes back and he's like, 1000-Year Blood War is incredible. It's kind of weird, but I'm not going to say anything about that, even though he said that should have ended after Arrancar. I think he just meant that ending would have been more satisfying, which I disagree with. It's just more so you don't know what's being foreshadowed, you know? But yeah. I agree with Nightfall though. His video has issues, but out of respect, I will say I like it a lot more than Eye Patch Wolf's video because at least you can feel like he loves the series, you know, even if he at the same time has his issues with it. I think he said it's in his top 10 favorite series. I think it's just because he like forgot chapters. Like he just forgot some of the information I had been provided because Bleach is a long series, which isn't me excusing him, you know, because like when you make a video, you should kind of maybe do like research on your takes. But like I've said wrong stuff before in my videos. I think I said like the ambassador of hell for some reason. I don't know why I said ambassador instead of the warden of hell. So like we're YouTubers, we're humans, we make mistakes. I think maybe though there was quite a few things that I think are like big things, like some of the takes, and some of the takes are more so you know, I guess. But yeah, so that's my take on it. Oh, hey Doofy, welcome your face to the stream. So yeah, I'm trying to show as much respect as I can. But I will definitely say that the video is better than Eye Patch Wolf, but let's continue.
Is that I'm scared it'll go down the Arrancar arc where it'll just be like too big for
I
what
agree.
It is.
I actually totally agree with this. Thank you, Doofy. I totally agree with this take. I am worried that the Hell arc might be too big and might be too ambitious. But I also think that Kubo's not going to go for a too big arc. Because you have to think the Hell arc could be really big. I'd be more so worried about, like, you know, like the Arrancar fights where, like, they had those, the Prevera and the Espada fights. And the Baragon's Fracion fights, you know, all that stuff. And stuff like that. But, like, this... I don't think it will because I don't think Kubo's willing to go weekly again, and he's more so going to be monthly. So I think everything that's in the Hell arc is going to be really highly thought about. Does that make sense? Yeah.
And it'll just have too many things working against it. Like when you have that many balls in the air, right, it starts to compartmentalize and give every single thing its proper spotlight. Like for example, Ukiura and Grimjaw got way more spotlight than like the next 3 or 4 Espada combined. And obviously Kubo couldn't focus on every...
to an extent, I definitely agree with Doofy, but he was also, in my opinion, calling for the backlash a little bit with his title. You know, which has like pros and gains. When you title a video "Why Bleach is a Failure," you're like almost putting yourself in the forefront of saying like that's why I think most of his backlash comes. I don't even think James would have watched the video if it wasn't titled that. You know what I mean, Doofy? The title is just a YouTuber style. Like, I've titled videos, "Does Jujutsu Kaisen suck?" I get backlash. I don't get upset over the backlash because I titled the video that, but like some of the stuff has been uncalled for, and I think people are overreacting a little bit to some degree. But I do think like when you watch his actual video, nowhere in the video do I feel like he thinks Bleach is a failure. I think he just has some pet peeves about the story of Bleach. But yeah.
Every single one of them, so I understand where he was coming from. At the same time, I think smaller villains, big scope is like Kubo's sweet spot, but not too much, because when it's too little, it's just Ichigo washing the villains, let's be honest. So yeah, I'm very excited for this arc. I'm definitely looking forward to it. Now with the intermission out of the way, we can finally get into the stuff I didn't like.
I'm actually really interested in discussing this. Again, I've already seen this part 2 times, so I've kind of thought about what I wanted to say, but we're going to get really deep into this. There's a lot more takes in this section that I agree with than in other parts of his video.
Till this part of
there's also a lot of stuff that I dislike.
The video.
Well, yeah, at the same time, Nightfall, Bleach is 695 chapters. He got a little bit more wrong than he probably could have, like should have, but like I've made mistakes, like I've said earlier. Like I've called the Warden of Hell the Ambassador of Hell, or like I've said stuff that I thought happened but didn't before, and people correct me. So yeah. Yeah, it's just a YouTube title.
Oh, thank you so much. You are literally the reason I keep making content. But for real though, if we finally get
you're a beautiful man.
to this point, and you haven't realized what I don't like about Bleach, then I will try to be as explicit as I possibly can. So, first thing, Ichigo doesn't get his hands dirty. Now, this one is probably the thing that I hate most about Bleach. Ichigo has found...
Sorry, I spaced out for a second.
Dirty. Now, this one is probably the thing that I hate most about Bleach. Ichigo has found a way, in a world full of monsters, demons, and warring races, to never get his own hands dirty. Isn't that bizarre? Ichigo has a savior complex, not necessarily a killing complex. So, if you kill the thing...
Yeah, so this was built up. It was built up for a while. Ichigo ends up killing Ginjo later on in the arc, and it's very deep because it's a human that he kills. But he has like defeated other hollows in the past, if that makes sense, and technically killed them, quote unquote, by killing them. There's been a few examples where he just didn't get the chance, like Grimmjow, for example. It was the Noitra that took Grimmjow out of the battle, incapacitated him. And I think Ichigo has always tried to really understand them, but I do somewhat agree. I think like there could have been some more stuff handled differently. It could have been handled differently. I think his second take, which we're gonna get into later, is gonna be more interesting in a better discussion, at least for this video, because that one I agree with. This one I can see. I somewhat disagree with it. I think if he had killed more, it would have taken away a lot. Not really, Knight. It's a little complicated. I can get in that conversation with you later. I thought about making a video about it, but not really.
Putting the people you want to protect in danger, you're saving them. That satisfies your complex. I don't understand. And also, these people are demons, right? Like, hollows are literally creatures that eat humans, right? Like I'm not crazy. Like, they didn't stop being that because they got turned into Arrancars. Hell, the first thing Yami did when they debuted was just consume a bunch of human souls. Not even to mention, like, Aizen, right? Like, why doesn't Aizen kill? That is so weird. It really pisses me.
I think there's a lot of individuals that would have died, actually. It's just because Unohana was there to heal them, and that's why they survived. I just don't think Aizen's willing to go out of his way to kill, because it has nothing to do with his plan, and it wouldn't affect it in any way. But I do agree with the lack of killing, but he hasn't gone into that. So we're going to
second, I mentioned this earlier, but Urahara could have done...
All right, so I don't think he got into it, I guess. But Bleach really lacks killing. There should have been way more death, at least in early Bleach. Thousand Year Blood War kind of fixes that, but there definitely should have been more death at the start. But anyway, let's continue.
Done way more. He could have been way more proactive. Number 3.
Yeah, that's just a personal decision,
is my beef with Yamamoto. Now, Yamamoto, as the leader of the Goti 13, like this really OP figure who has like this really insanely powerful.
Yeah, he literally
bond
cut
type,
Hiyori
his
in
bond
half.
is next level. He is so underutilized. When the Quincy's invaded, he had to know Yuwatch was coming, right? Like Yamamoto just should have been at his A game, and we know in Bleach losing an arm is like losing half your power. Like no joke. Look at Grimjow.
So this is Yamamoto's pride. I agree and I also disagree. Like this is a tough one for me because on one hand, I think I would have loved to get more moments where Yamamoto was like at his A game, where Yamamoto was like fighting longer, destroying enemies. But the issue was Yamamoto was too powerful for his own good. You know, like if we constantly had him at his A game, there wouldn't really be as much of a story as we could have had. And we do get to see glimpses of Yamamoto's true power against like Aeon. I mean, there's a lot of characters that I feel like get underutilized. I feel like Yamamoto gets utilized more than those other characters that get super underutilized. As for the arm thing, if that's a problem, it's Yamamoto's pride, which keeps his character consistent in my opinion. But yeah, so I do somewhat agree that he could have been utilized more. But at the same time, this is more like a personal preference thing. And overall, I mostly disagree with the take. But this is like just your own opinion. This is your own preference on Yamamoto as a whole, you know? And what you would have liked. Like, I would have liked more screen time with Yamamoto, but it wasn't necessary, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's overall fair. I get it. It's your own personal experience.
He was kicked off of the Espada completely for losing
in
an
personal,
arm.
like
he was
viewing,
number
you know?
6. There were still 4 people behind him, and he was just kicked off completely because losing an arm.
Exactly. Like, if Yamamoto, like... But at the same time, Kubo could have done something with Yamamoto besides it. Like, maybe Yamamoto was fighting Aizen. Or something, and maybe Yamamoto was just seeing like hypnosis of Aizen and fighting him all along. You know, there could have been something, and it makes sense why Yamamoto wouldn't get his arm back because, like Antonio just said, his pride. He would never ask an outsider for help.
Was deemed to be that brutal for you. Now my next beef is that Chad.
I agree with you, Nightfall. I think they handle Yamamoto quite well overall. I actually prefer how Yamamoto is handled over how Netero is handled in Hunter x Hunter. But I'm not really going to compare the two because I feel like that's a flaw. Like, if you can't back up your own series, and then you have to take in somebody else's series. I don't know why I brought up Netero. I know this guy's favorite series is Hunter x Hunter, and that's why it happened in my mind. But I don't mean that in any negativity because I think Netero was handled amazingly well. So yeah, I think Netero and Yamamoto were both handled amazingly well. I probably shouldn't have brought that up. I apologize for that.
Were constantly ignored, despite their races being a huge part of the major arcs in the story. Like, if you were to take their screen time in both arcs combined, it wouldn't even reach 1/10 of the screen time Ichigo had in their arcs separately.
Okay, so to take that into consideration, to think of that take, I agree with Chad completely. I hate how underutilized Chad is, and Chad is horribly done. A lot of the time. I just don't like how he's handled. I wish Chad was more utilized. I love Chad in early Bleach. He just doesn't stay consistent throughout the story, and it makes me really sad with how Chad is handled. I still respect Kubo for how he handles everything else. I just really, that's one of my criticisms of Bleach is how Chad was handled. The Chad problem, I suppose. But as you take Ryu into account, I disagree about Ryu. And especially in the take where he only had 10% of Ichigo's screen time in 1,000 Year Blood War. Ichigo was barely prevalent in 1,000 Year Blood War. They had quite a lot combined. Like they had, like, Ichigo definitely had more than Ryu screen time, but it wasn't like Ryu only had 10%. It was more like Ryu had like 40 or 45% of Ichigo's screen time, and stuff like that. Oh, hey, Creams. Welcome your face to stream, by the way, man. But yeah, so I disagree with the take, but I agree with the Chad part. I just disagree with the Ryu part. And I love how Ryu's character progresses throughout the arc.
And that's truly a shame, because the Quincy's coming back should have been a major thing for Ryu's character. He just appeared, by the way. We don't know how he got there or what the deal was. No indication about what's going on, really.
I don't think it really needs to be explained how he got there. It was obvious that something was on his mind early on in Bleach. I mean, we get panels of him just, like, thinking to himself in, like, the first start, like, 480, 481. So, yeah. Will the VOD be available? I kind of got to work tomorrow, and this is perfect to listen to while I'm doing that. Yes, the VOD will be available. Chad deserves so much more. By the way, the first 10 minutes of the stream will be just a song and a timer, so you'll want to skip through that, past that. if you're gonna watch this while you're working. I agree.
So I thought that was a wash. Number 6, power scaling these characters gives me a headache. For example, there's this thing in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc where it's kind of implied that Mayuri reanimated the corpses of some of the Arrancar, or some of them just didn't flat out die and they just joined the Soul Reapers to help out with the Quincy's. And one of them was Grimjow, right? And it was really cool to see him again. But at the same time, why was he able to kill like the 3rd strongest Quincy in the?
So Grimjow was never risen by Mayuri. Grimjow was never killed. And we also get implications that he was training the entire time, from like start to finish, from since Ichigo defeated Grimjow, that Grimjow has been training this whole time. I mean, in chapter 625, Grimjow is just sitting there and he's training pretty much. Not training, but he's being pretty much told, he's talking with Ichigo, and it's just kind of implied that he's been training this whole time. As he's like, I've been waiting to fight you after all this time. Waiting. Kind of implying that training. But we know that he's been gone and that he's been preparing to fight Ichigo again because he wants to get his rematch. And also, out of all the Schutzstaffel, Askin isn't really that strong. And by that, I mean he has his hacks abilities that are absolutely broken. But his durability is not great besides the fact of his ability where he can analyze Ryatsu, create poisons and all that. So besides poison resistances, talking about then poison and oh my gosh, it's complicated, but you get the picture. It's no loss to the fight. But yeah, it makes sense why Grimjow was able to stab him because Askin wasn't able to analyze Grimjow overall, So, and it came out of nowhere. Askin didn't sense his Ryatsu and was able to use his hacks to put up an ability. And his body was weak. His body wasn't that durable. It was more so his hacks that were there and his speed. That's what made Askin broken. Not his durability. And kind of made that obvious because literally Yoichi's brother was able to absolutely demolish Askin in his base before Askin started using his ability.
Grand scheme of things, isn't Grimjow still weak? So
he's not weak anymore because he has been training for those 2 years because he was never, he was still alive. It's just because you must have misread some stuff and you must have thought that Mayuri rose Grimjow when Mayuri didn't raise Grimjow.
Right.
Because Grimjow's actually the one. Well, it's hard to say. I think So Grimjow's the one that defeats Quillage, and we also see his arm in some panels too. With Kisuke. In fact, Kisuke had a ton of conversations with Grimjow. It was just very subtle and very hard to notice. So I don't blame you for not seeing it. But yeah, Grimjow was the one that killed Quillage, the jail guy.
I have is, why are people always more powerful than they initially let on? The only time that hiding your own power was such a big, well-executed thing was with Kenpachi, because he didn't even know he was doing that, and I loved the way that it was slowly revealed and it came out, and it was really interesting, and it made him one of my favorite characters in the entire series. But at the same time, it's so unfair that he's the only one who gets it. So number 8 is actually a very important one.
I mean, I think there's been a few cases where it's been executed well. And some stuff where it's been foreshadowed. If you're talking about Kenten Senju or whatever it's called, not Kenten Senju, the seal that the Shinigami put on them, captains and lieutenants put on them. That was explained earlier. I mean, Renji flat out said that lieutenants and captains are 5 times weaker inside the world of the living. And it was elaborated more on as being that seal that they had when they were in the world of the living. That seal trapping their Ryatsu, of course. So that was explained later on. As for Bankais, Bankais are pre-established things. So there's been a few cases where I do agree with you, where it's kind of weird. But for the most part, I slightly disagree with that take. But again, that's another personal preference type thing. So I would just respectfully disagree. Knowing Grimjow, he definitely wouldn't let himself become rusty. Exactly, Riley. And he's been training. He wants a rematch with Ichigo. He wants to beat Ichigo. And yeah, and then also you don't want to use your strongest attack out of nowhere. I mean, because they didn't have access to it at the time. Rukia, Renji, Toshiro, and all that trained after the battle with Aizen and during the Fullbringer arc. I don't know. But yeah. So I'll make sure that. And there is a few times where I guess you could say, oh my gosh, what's going on here, But for the most part, I think it's pretty consistent, but it's just a personal preference thing. I agree with Antonio, it's a battle strategy. They also want to reserve their abilities, But you can disagree with that take, and I guess more power to you. I just respectfully disagree.
It kind of ties in the rest of my grievances together. I just wanted more Soul Reapers to die.
I agree.
That were relevant, right? Because I know what you're gonna say. What about
like in Yami's case, it was so stupid and annoying. Like, I hate how Yami was done. But yeah.
What about any of the other people in the Stern Ritter's initial attack? What about them? Name me one or two other people aside from Yamamoto that had like a really proper death. You can't even say Ukitake because he did a self-sacrifice. The Quincy's didn't kill him. Kamamura was the only one that got like even a semblance of a normal death. He got his human heart
I agree with this take.
Eaten by like his grandfather or something.
This is my biggest problem with Bleach is the lack of character deaths. But
did he even die? Did he even die? Really? Overall, I think I really did like the series, right? Like, I had a great time reading it, and it's definitely become one of my favorite series I've ever read because the world building, character work are generally.
I agree with that last take for sure.
You know, in the end, I do think I was wrong not to watch Bleach because it ended up being one of the series I'm most passionate about. Because I wouldn't get this way if it was a series that.
Antonio, Chojiro was only sad. Chojiro Sasakibe's death, he said 2, by the way, but Chojiro Sasakibe's death was only sad because of Yamamoto. But anyway, more character deaths were needed, for sure. And obviously, like you said, he doesn't believe Bleach is a failure. Like, it's just a YouTube title, so there's that too.
I obviously have very strong emotions, but they're emotions toward something I like and that I really resonated with.
Exactly, Antonio. You only have 2 scenes with him. You have one scene of him laying the visors. No, you don't even see that. You see him, like, talking to Yamamoto, just informing him. And then you have a scene with him being absolutely demolished by Yamamoto. Like, Chojiro was so, like... Out of the lieutenants, he was the most unseen, pretty much. Like, we saw more of Asane than Chojiro, and that says something. Yes, I agree with this. Although I don't really think death is the best way to have a character come full circle. I mean, I agree, Rally, but still, like, in a show where, like, there's such a, like, terrifying threat, it would make sense for there to be more deaths.
Being up to par in my eyes. I will make more Bleach videos in the coming days, weeks, months. So please stick to the channel for a while if you want to hear me make videos about literally any of the things I discussed here. If you want me to make full breakdown of the things I hate about Bleach, like, please let me know. Get this video to, like, I don't know, 150 likes, and I'll definitely do that. So with that being said... thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Bye.
So overall, I think the video is better than Super Eye Patchwolf's video. The title is obviously just a YouTube title. There was a few takes I agreed with. I mean, you guys saw the ones I agreed with. I said that I agreed with them. A lot of takes that I heavily disagreed with. And a few takes that I thought, oh, that's just personal preference. I respectfully disagree. So that's overall. Overall, I think a lot of the mistakes made could have been fixed, here and there. I agree, Antonio, death is not needed to make a good story, but I think in a story like Bleach, with how it is, it kind of needed it personally. But again, you can disagree, you can agree. That's what I respectfully believe. But yeah, overall, thoughts on the video. Those are my thoughts. I've kind of already stated them on Twitter. I will say, as I watch it more, there's a lot more that I disagree with than I agree with. Like, a lot more that I disagree with. And then there's some stuff where it's like, there are specific chapters that kind of explain each point. But like you said, he disagrees with 20 to 30% of his takes here. And with that in mind, I think it's an okay-ish video. I respect him as a content creator. And depending on what those 20 to 30% takes are, I think that kind of boosts the video up for me. Now, in mind of some of that stuff, there's quite a bit of stuff in there that, like, if you, like, read past parts of the story, then, like, I think it's just that he got a few things wrong. But I still, like, it's okay-ish overall. I think there's some stuff I agreed with, some stuff I disagreed with. I liked a lot of the praise that he had. A lot of his critique was there. Some of it was right, in my opinion. Some of it wasn't the best. But yeah. Antonio, no hard feelings. Like, you still respect the person. You can, like, completely disagree with the critique. but you can still respect the person. I think there was some sections where he added like a very interesting perspective. I know we didn't watch the Fullbringer section. I refused to. I'm sorry. I literally summed up most of it, and then he like says one other thing. But if you guys want to go back, you can watch that section. I summed up my opinion on Fullbringer pretty well, and some of his takes in that section. But yeah. Now I'm gonna rank the arcs because I feel like it. Because he did, and he gave them scores. Substitute Shinigami manga is an 8 out of 10. Anime is a 6.5 or 7 out of 10. Soul Society arc, I actually agree with his 8.5. I'd give it between 8.5 to 9 out of 10. Between those two. Arrancar arc, I'm going to rank it as a whole. I give the Arrancar arc a solid 9.5 out of 10. Fullbringer, I give Arrancar an overall, like, it's between a 9 and a 9.5. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. Fullbringer arc, I give Fullbringer a 9.5 out of 10. And 1,000 Year Blood War, I give 1,000 Year Blood War a 10 out of 10. Howl's from the Jaws of Hell, he doesn't have a ranking for it, so I won't rank it, I guess. Light novels of Bleach, 10 out of 10. Read Bleach. But yeah. I wonder, like, what are some of the comments you got? I strongly disagree. I would have hollow, no pun intended, empty way to just end the series with each. Okay. I mean, I agree the society is not heaven. I mean, it doesn't mean that you didn't pay attention to the series. It just means that, like, the series is so long that you can forget stuff. Some interesting comments. Every Bleach arc is above 9 for me. Yeah, every Bleach arc besides either the first arc or, like, maybe Soul Society. I have to, like, really think of Soul Society. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. I was reading the comments. I was so busy reading the comments that I really forgot I was streaming for a second. Not gonna lie, I completely spaced that I was streaming. Anyway, guys, make sure you guys like the stream if you guys ended up enjoying the stream. It was actually a lot of fun watching this video. Now let's watch another Bleach hate video. Why not? Just for the heck of it. Because this was actually kind of fun. I will give you the respect of subscribing, even though I disagree with a lot said in the video, because I respect you as a content creator, Creams. At least I liked parts of your video, you know what I mean? So you get that subscription. Also, I'm sure you have other videos that are really fun, and also I've been wanting to talk to you more in the community anyway, because you seem like a cool person. You know what I mean? Just because he has a one video that is okay-ish doesn't mean and I think the video just, I don't know, I gave you guys my take on the video. I think people kind of blew things out of proportion though, definitely, for sure. Fullbringer arc is at least an 8 for me. I just prefer the other arcs more. That's fair. Fullbringer is my second favorite arc. It's kind of fun because Yeah, he seemed like a chill guy overall. My least favorite arc is the first arc of the series. Then comes Soul Society. Then comes Arrancar. Then comes Fullbringer. And then comes Thousand Year Blood War. Like, for Bleach, at least for me, the story progressively gets better. Like, it never, like, really, like, has that major dip that, like, a lot of people say, like, where there's, like, one arc between the 5 that, like, is a downgrade. But, like, the Arrancar arc is also really hard to, like, rank because, like, it's so long, you know? It's, like, 300 chapters long. So it's hard to, like, rank. Oh, Sensei Ink is streaming. Oh, he's not streaming anymore. But, yeah. Yeah, so I haven't uploaded in 2 weeks. What do you guys think about that? I need to upload more, I know. I've been working on 2 good videos. Let me get some background music, man. There we go. But, like, I've been, like, working on 2 videos. And, one of them is taking a lot of time. One of them is less time, and it's more so I just started working on it. Hey, Travis. But yeah, so it's kind of wild. But overall, I need a better thumbnail for this stream. They're worth waiting for. I appreciate that, Nightfall. I'm working on a video detailing the entire story of Bleach right now, and that one's almost done. It's almost done. And I'm working on a video taking a look at Bleach's artwork, and that will come out before the recap of Bleach. I'm kind of like putting the recap of Bleach on the side. I'm gonna finish this video first, so I at least have an upload out, you know, because I haven't really uploaded recently, and I want to upload more. I need to at least get a video out. We need more pokes though. What was your 2022 upload? I wanted to upload 24 videos that I was proud of. I'm kind of behind on that because there hasn't been one video this year so far that I'm proud of, because there's only been a single, like, 3 videos out that I'm proud, that, like, 3 actual videos out. Yes, these 2 interviews. Yeah, that I'm really excited for the artwork video. It's a really good video in my opinion. I don't say that often. Antonio has actually peeped the script for it. I have to record it and then I'm gonna edit it, and it should be out. I'm hoping it's out Wednesday. Wednesday or Thursday is the goal right now. Facts, Nightfall. But it's me talking about, like, the evolution of Bleach's artwork. So, that should be really good. I got inspired by this one, art. I saw this one video about, it was, like, the evolution of Naruto's art. I was like, I could do that video, but for Bleach. I haven't watched the video, but I just saw the video and I was like, I want to do that for Bleach because I love Bleach, and honestly, Kubo's art style really does genuinely evolve quite a bit throughout the series. You know what I mean? Like, when you compare his art from the first arc to his art in the final arc, and it's completely different. So, what happened? How did he get from point A to point B? And when was Kubo's art at its peak? Spoiler alert, in my opinion, that's Thousand Year Blood War. And Fullbringer. But we'll get there when we get there. You know what I mean? I love how at Fullbringer I stopped talking about, like, an aesthetic change, and I more so talk about, like, other changes in the arc. What the heck is playing? Oh, it's an Elfin Lead song. I need to rewatch that, honestly. But yeah. Anyway, guys, if you guys are new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're gonna be doing a lot of stuff coming up on the channel. I'm gonna try to upload more. The gaming channel should get started pretty soon, and there's gonna be, if you guys do like streams, you can peep my second channel. I plan to do an occasional Bleach stream over there and post some other stuff there as well. It's at 69 subs, so yeah, I plan to start using that again. And then the gaming channel will also have stuff on it eventually. Not yet. We're working on stuff still, but let me get that in the link in the description. Not link in the description, the link in the chat. 69 0. And before we head out, as sad as it is, we must watch Chad take the L. This is so sad. This is so sad. Oh, ignore that. That video is so old. Please don't watch that, Nightfall. Please. That video is so old. That video is like beta Pokesel. Yeah, Prince Mirth really posts these funny clips. This is so sad, though. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's great. You're fighting against Bleach characters. Oh my gosh. Age restricted. Spitting. Honestly, I'm more scared of Asnot than I am of Baragon. Spinning again. The King of New York is broken. I mean, yeah, you'd be getting experimented on. But yeah, what games we're going to be getting? We're going to be playing, the first video is Crab Game. And then we're going to be experimenting with other stuff too. It's going to be a lot of games. So yeah, it's going to be streamed videos. So I'm going to be streaming on Twitch. I'm going to be like switching over. Speaking of which, I mean, I hate like throwing a bunch of stuff at you guys. But if you guys do have a Twitch, follow me on Twitch. I stream on there way more frequently than I stream on YouTube. Even though I haven't really streamed recently, I do plan on streaming again there soon. Once I get my schedule and life together. But yeah, thank you guys for watching the stream all the way that you guys did. Like, the support on the stream was really good. Like, way more than I was expecting. Way more than I would have gotten on Twitch, for real. But, yeah. See you guys.